cut sharp.
William, it is nice to see you, and we are doing our second live in person.
Schmitty.
Right? This is awesome.
Salute to you and to the
guys,
posse.
Which means it's an afternoon and podcast, guys.
Yep, a little old-fashioned to kind of get the gears going this afternoon.
So, one of the things we've been hearing and thinking about is who should be using AI and how do you do it? And I think one of the things we came up with that if you can text, if you can leave a voicemail, if you can just have a conversation, you can use AI.
Well, not only can you use AI, you can use AI agents. And I think that, here's the TLDR, which is too long to read. I think it is too long.
Yeah.
Anyways,
keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. An LLM is a brain that is reactive. You ask it a question, the better your response. That's what most people are used to, whether it be ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok. Think of agents. When you build an agent, you're giving this super brain arms and legs, and it can actually do things for you, which is really exciting. And to Mike's point, you know how to talk and you know how to text, and the tools that we're using today, I can be anywhere. I think we talked about this. Right. I'm driving to a meeting a week ago, and this company doesn't have an app that would serve a vital need. And while I'm driving, I just talk to my assistant and say, hey, this is the company, do some research for me, and let's build them an app. And I want to have a live demo ready to go. So this is HTML, it has its own address. This
is a transportation company. This is something where you schedule, hey, I need to be picked up, I need to be dropped off. We see that. We see Uber and Lyft, and these guys already have it built in. But why couldn't you do it for yourself? And you know what? The reality is you can. If you can talk, if you can vibe code.
Right. And that just means describe what you want.
Right. And so one of the things too, I think that we want to be cautious of is, hey, let's not start at climbing Mount Everest. Let's start with something simple. Like let's take a picture of our desk and say, how do I go about making sense of this mess that I call a desk, and see what it says.
And so this is where Mike and I disagree a little bit. Keep it simple and go for Mount Everest simultaneously. So I'm a huge believer in what is a simple use case you can use today. And a great example is I used to have my desktop on my computer was a mess. And I said, I just told my agent without deleting anything, organize and clean up my desktop. And again, you get that kind of little kid sense of wonder when all of a sudden you see all your files getting moved around and everything is clean and beautiful. So, and then
he's talking about his desktop on his computer.
Right. And where you were talking about an old school.
I'm talking about, because I still have a partner's desk, and take a picture of it out of a Gemini and say, I need to create some order. What's your suggestion?
Or take a picture of what's in your fridge. Now this is a real knuckle-dragger idea. I am not a well-versed culinary anything. My girlfriend can cook anything and make it beautiful. Tonight we're having some lobster rolls after this shoot, so that's going to be awesome. So I can take a picture of what's in my fridge and say, give me a recipe. I need a high protein recipe based on what I have here, and it will create a recipe. It will create plating instructions. So these tools are now multimodal. And so what does multimodal mean? It means they can look at pictures. You can draw your idea for an app, or you can draw your idea for a kid's cartoon in a video. It'll bring a video to life on it. So again, in today's show, we're going to be talking a little bit more about agents and what they are and some use cases for them. Have fun. We talked a couple episodes ago. Be curious. What can this do? And I think, to Mike's point, don't have it do anything dangerous. Don't give it access to anything that you don't want it to have access to. And one of the things that we're very strict about, and they're called harnesses. If we get, so my agents at night, they put a brief together for me, and they go out and they search X and they search all over. They're looking for the latest in AI, the latest in agentic tool use. Then they pull my Aura Ring information and they create a brief. It tells me what my calendar is. It highlights latest, greatest news items, but it knows specifically where it can go and where it can't go.
Well, I think that's the beauty of what we've built. We've built it with guardrails and with some perspective as to how do we want to be presented in the world. How do we want to communicate? What are we willing to do? We're not willing to lie. We're not willing to cheat or steal, right? We're here and we want to operate in an authentic manner as possible so that our humanness is elevated, not diminished on the thing. And I think about that, because I think that's something we're going to keep talking about. A lot of people are worried about they're going to lose their job to AI. They're going to do, I don't want to sound harsh, but I think some of these people who have lost jobs, I think about some of the people at Uber who lost their jobs. I got to believe those were some pretty bright people who lost jobs.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe somebody had to make a selection, but those people of all people, I think, would probably be best suited to go through and figure out how to go make money and a living and provide for their families with the tools that are available to them now. And so to some degree, I think they were probably done a favor. That may sound harsh, because it is. Now they're out of a paycheck and they may have to go make tuition and do all these things.
Sometimes a fire under your ass is not a bad thing.
And I think in this world, I think in the last 80 years, humankind, Americans, Western civilizations, gotten a little soft. We've been used to, hey, we go to school, we get a job, that job we can have for 30 or 40 years. If you think about prior to World War II, our grandparents, our great-grandparents didn't have the certainty of an 80-year job necessarily, and they could do multiple things. Your dad could fix trucks, and he could write literature, and he could train horses, and he could do all sorts of, he could sell cattle, he could do all sorts of things that were very seemingly disparate. And today we've gotten to be pretty homogenous in what our skill sets are, and our brains need to get kind of wired to the idea of being able to do multiple things and maybe be good at more than one thing.
Well, and to your point, we don't want anybody to lose a job.
No.
But if we can use these tools to elevate humanity, one of the things that I think about, and I've been doing coaching and working with organizations I'm not going to name the company, but once upon a time I worked for a large global brand, and I was hired to go in and work with this one department that had the worst morale in the organization. They were the complaint department, and this was what I was told. They were there to listen to people complain, but they had no agency to fix anything. And if they got quit, there were 10 people out the door waiting for the job. So if you want to talk about being trapped in kind of a purgatory, that's the worst job in the entire world.
For sure.
And if you can use these tools to educate and to elevate yourself, I don't think, and I know this for a fact, the reason why we call it hump day is because most people aren't in love with the jobs they have. And then thank God it's Friday. Well, okay, we survived another week on the grind.
I get 48 hours of respite.
Yeah, I have my cocktails and I suck it up and I go back to work on Monday. Maybe this change isn't such a bad thing.
Right.
And I think of my girlfriend has two beautiful grandbabies. One of them's 2, one of them's just 5 months old. And I think about the world, that the opportunities that they're going to have, and they're not going to be trapped in cubicles.
Right.
They're not going to be going to a grind because and this is happening right now. The low vibrational repetitive tasks can be done better by an agent today.
And they're going to be taught differently.
Yes.
They're going to be taught differently than the people
education.
over the last 30, 40 years. Right. We're going to be able to go through and figure out, do you learn through touch? Do you learn auditory? Do you need to read something? Are you a combination? Do you have dyslexia? Do you have ADHD? How do we create a customized plan for you so that you can be truly successful in this new world where creativity and challenging the status quo and the norm is actually probably going to be much more rewarding than just going along? And I think, I had a presentation I did last week where I had a bunch of educators in the room, and I kind of talked about, I don't know that the education system's done anybody any favors in this new world of AI. And then I mentioned a couple episodes ago, my grandfather, who went to boarding school from 1915 to 1923 and in Ampleforth, England, was probably better prepared to deal with the AI. And he's unfortunately no longer with us, but he was probably better prepared because he had more of a classical education to think abstractly and be able to do and be good at multiple things. And I think that's what we need to be doing with our children, our grandchildren right now.
Here's an example of what is possible. So my dad worked, he's part of the space program. He worked for Kelly Johnson and Skunk Works. Kind of a cool story, I'll tell you someday. We were having dinner the other day with the son of the president of Hughes Aircraft. And so with the SR-71, which is one of the
my favorite airplane.
Favorite airplane, highest tech airplane on the planet. So Kelly Johnson and Ken Richardson, president of Hughes Aircraft, head of Skunk Works, were working on this project together, and they were instrumental in getting us to the moon. And if you ever watch any of these old shows about the space race, you will see whiteboards. And these whiteboards, it makes my mind explode.
Chalkboards.
Math equations. Yeah. Math equations that are thousands of characters long that the engineers and the scientists in this program had to manually do. And literally today, I push a button and it's solved. And so what if we take that creative genius and instead of having to spend, I don't know, a month and a half doing this, I can be thinking about what is possible. What if we start exploding the imagination? In this show, as you guys, we talked about becoming an AI native or an AI native organization. What could be possible if every member of your team has a specific role, an intention, and an outcome, and they have a superpower? They're the best in the world at it. They've got a coach by their side every day, bringing them the latest, greatest tools, and they get to be contributing on an exponentially greater level.
Agreed. I will say something, though, that the discipline it took to be able to understand the analytical geometry and the calculus that went into those computations is also good to have. And I didn't really appreciate what calculus did for me. I went to Cal Poly and took calculus, might have taken it twice. But you know, it actually taught me, and I didn't really come to appreciate it till maybe 10, 15 years later, about how to think about a problem, how to come to a proof, how to develop an idea and run it all the way to the end. Because I think these are still skills that are going to be necessary, and we can't outsource that.
No.
Otherwise, we are truly outsourcing what makes us uniquely human and capable.
There's three types of people in the world right now. There are AI natives, they are AI dependent, and they are ostriches. You don't want to be any of the last two. So an AI dependent person, and this is happening in universities and it's happening in organizations, I'm offloading my cognitive work to AI. And I'm actually becoming dumber. And kids who are being raised in environments that aren't being forced to do the brain push-ups, which is what you're talking about, without the brain push-ups, my intellect decreases, my brain size shrinks. The AI native person, the AI native tutor, I don't go to AI to get answers. I go to AI to be challenged, to be elevated, to help me brainstorm, to stretch my cognitive capabilities, and then help me develop the requisite skill sets to bring something really amazing to the world. And the good news is, going back, we talked about this in one of our first shows, and this is for real old Knuckle-Draggers. There were these things, and to you young kids out there, they were called encyclopedias. And they were these gigantic books, and they were like A through Z, and they were kind of cool. They, you know, you would go, and if you wanted to learn about the Amazon, you would pull it up. If you wanted to learn about the Civil War, you would go there. And the problem is, you had to get new ones every 2 years, which were expensive because things change and things are outdated and
to put it in perspective, my mom and dad I found the documents from when my mom and dad bought their first house, 1976 I think it was, and they spent $35,000 to buy this house. 1981 they spent $3,500 to buy us, my sister and I, an encyclopedia to have in the house. Isn't 10%?
That's incredible.
Right, kind of crazy. And today our telephone has more. I think we were World Book Encyclopedia guys.
Yeah.
You know,
we were Britannica.
But you know, you got and it looked super. You know, every time a new one came out, and every year when they sent you the update or whatever, I'd go through it, and it was kind of neat to see what was new. Okay, that's kind of nerdy, but they spent 10% of the value of their house because they wanted my sister and I to have access to data. Because back then, having access to data and then knowing how to use it was going to be what was going to make you successful. It's still somewhat the case, but now your telephone has all the data it needs. What we need to be doing is training our brains and our children and our grandchildren how to take the data that's available to us and do things that are novel and useful and relevant to what humanity needs today.
Novel, useful, and relevant. And so this is, again, if you become AI dependent, you are giving your power, you're giving your agency, you're giving your authority to a machine. That's a really bad strategy. If you are an AI ostrich, I'm scared of it. I don't like. I mean, this breaks my heart. I have a 35-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old daughter, and they want nothing to do with AI. And I keep saying, you gotta roll up your sleeve. You gotta play with it. You gotta use it. And they're so resistant. And we just started working with a new leader who wants to become an AI native. He went to his company. I think he employs about 50 people, and without any pre-framing, he said, how do you feel about AI? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Most of them were thumbs down.
Yeah.
And I can't. I'm not. Was it Nostradamus? Yeah, I'm not Nostradamus, but unless you embrace this technology, you're going to be left behind.
But to a certain degree, William, this is why you and I are doing this podcast, right? It's to try to get people, because people don't like what they don't know, and they don't trust. And there's so much negativity in the world out there today that all we're being told is everything's bad. Everything, there's nothing good in the world. And yet you and I both know we're not going to live our lives that way. There's so much good in the world. And by going through and doing this podcast, it's the idea to be able to have some conversation. This is a blatant plug. If you're not already part of the posse, join the posse, because we'd love to have you here, and we'd love to have you send us thoughts and questions about what you want to hear.
Absolutely.
Because the reality is, the more we can have a conversation around what it can do and the guardrails you should put up so that you're not taken advantage of, and you can protect those that you love and elevate them, the easier it is because you're not going to have as much as it sounds harsh, you're not going to have a choice. You could go 2026 and you can be the ostrich and you can keep your head in the sand. But by first quarter 2027 or second quarter 2027, your businesses, your companies, especially if you're a W-2 employee working for somebody else, you're going to be forced to input your work product into an AI. That at some point you're going to have to go, am I doing this to replace myself, or am I doing this to elevate myself?
And so this is jumping back in time and space, but once upon a time I was a close quarter combat instructor. I got to work with members of special teams, and the number one rule in combat and in self-defense is action always beats reaction. And if you are waiting until you're forced to use these tools, forget about it. And as Mike was speaking, we're going on a ride this weekend, 3-day ride, a horseback ride, and I've got a friend who's loaning me his horse, and the horse is a little bit green, and my girlfriend came out, was watching us, and she loves animals, and she's doesn't really have any experience on a horse, which is my bad. But as she was,
we're gonna fix that.
Yeah, as she was petting the animal, you could see the love, and these are 1,100-pound animals. And you have to respect them. You have to take your time with them. You have to understand how they work. There's a nuance and there's a dance that you go through to become a horse person. It's no different than using AI. It's very powerful, and you need to learn how to respect it. And it's good to have a coach. It's good to have somebody. I wouldn't just want to throw somebody on the back of a horse. I don't think that's a great strategy. I wouldn't want to throw.
Or like I did about a month ago with William, I put him on I told the person who was providing the horse, he's got lots of experience. So they put William on the problem child, and frankly, William didn't want to deal with the problem child. It's not that he didn't do it well, but he just wanted to go out and have fun, and instead they put him on the problem child to fix the horse, and I apologize.
That was the worst 2 hours, not literally of my life, but certainly top 10.
And yet, simple task. Right? Keep it simple, right? Get used to it. And then walk before you run. Now, William and I have been using AI for 2.5, 3 years almost, right? 2.5 years, easy. And really the last 6 months, we've really been using it. And I think one of the stats that I heard that was kind of interesting is that the people that are like us, right? The number of people using AI is expanding broadly, slowly, but the people that have been using it for 6 months or a year or more are going deep in it and going deep pretty quick.
Well, the token usage has increased exponentially.
Right.
And what's happening, so there's a very, very small, you guys, Knuckle-Draggers, and again, I don't care what you do. If you're a plumber, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're a real estate agent, if you roll up your sleeves and you start doing this now, you're just gonna become so much better at what you want to do, and it's gonna get easier. So there's no loss to that. And so what we're discovering is adoption has been very, very slow, deep adoption. But there has been, I'm not even the accurate number, 1,000x increase in token use, 1,000x increase in the amount of compute that's being used. And what that means is guys like us, we're using it 1,000 times more than we were 6 months ago, 6 years. So here's an example. When you buy a $20 subscription, why did we upgrade? When you buy a $20 subscription, you're given access to a super brain, but this is you're gonna hate this. It cuts off. So you can have it do, let's say you need it to do 50 things to complete whatever project it's working on. It'll get to number 20 and then just like boop, come back in 5 hours. Like it's super annoying.
And the other thing it'll do is it'll slow down the rate of compute. So by us paying, we get a faster compute at a higher level. It's like light years difference.
And the idea of not having access to this knowledge and this tools, I can't imagine living without it. And we understand that we are like 0.5% of the using world out there. So again, when we've said this, we'll say once a month, pick, so download Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, and Claude. Okay, get these 4. They're free, right? And then once a month, switch. Do the $20 tier. And then on that, the way I look at it, if you had, imagine having the world's best computer scientist, programmer, chef, whatever, sitting on your staff. So let's say I run a restaurant and I have the top Michelin chef in the world that I'm paying incredible amounts of money for, and I walk into the restaurant and he's sitting in a stool not doing anything. If you're not using your agent, that's what's happening. If you're not, so the way I think of it now, if I'm not burning my tokens, if I'm not hitting those usage walls, I've got the biggest brain in the world sitting on his hands, her hands, not doing anything for me.
And I'm not as much full of FOMO. Like I don't beat myself up if I didn't use all my tokens, but I do want to make certain when I have a request that I have the capacity and the bandwidth to get it done and get it done right now and get it done accurately. So, we're using them. William is using it much more robustly than I am. I think we're both getting good product out of it. But I think that, if I had to make the recommendation, I'd probably start today in June of 2026. I'd start with ChatGPT with OpenAI. Do the $20 on OpenAI today. Codex next week or next month in July. I'd move that over to probably Anthropic because I suspect Anthropic's catching up pretty quick. The month after that, I'd probably go Google. You had mentioned in the last episode you thought Google's coming up pretty quick. I think these things are leapfrogging over each other every month or so. And then I my dark horse for September is I think I'd probably plan on going into XAI because I don't see Grok. I don't see Elon Musk tolerating being in 4th or 5th place for very long. So, and these guys are going to continue to leapfrog over each other. I would encourage you just to do that, $20 a month, and keep spreading it around. Learn how to use each one of them. And then by the end of the year, you can really talk about me sooner than that if you like. But agents are a real thing, right? When you're not really employing an agent when you have a subscription with Chat, Codex, whatever. You have something that's certainly better than the large learning model experience you had a year ago, but it's not truly an agent, right? An agent you can go through and give perspective, have history, create context. You can teach it from iteration to iteration. And these, you can do a little bit of that, but not to the same degree that we can our agents.
Well, okay, so, and we're going to get geeky for just a little bit. I have an OpenAI subscription. I rarely use ChatGPT anymore. I'm using Codex 99% of the time. So Codex lives inside of ChatGPT. Codex is the agentic arm. Codex can control my computer. Codex can write apps. Codex can research. Codex can pull things down. So within OpenAI, Codex is the muscle. That's the arms and legs of OpenAI.
When they talk about programming and compute, right, Codex is really the thing they're talking about that's going through and behind the scenes. When we're vibe coding, we're talking into Codex, and it's doing a lot of the programming to make our agents work better.
And to give you a practical example, in the previous shows, I told Codex, look, we were using OBS Studio to kind of wrap everything together and how we change scenes, and it's not great, but it's going to get better. My agent went in, Codex, it created the scene frames, it loaded them into the studio, it did all of that work via my phone. So within OpenAI or ChatGPT, you have Codex, right? Now, within Claude has co-work, and I know this is a little bit geeky, but it's important for those of you who want to stretch a little bit. Co-work and Claude Code are agents. Claude is not. Claude you talk to, it's an LLM. So it's within the same $20 subscription, and maybe we'll do a deep dive on how it works. It gives your machine legs. And to your point about Google, Gemini just released, literally I got a message while we were filming Spark. And so if you have, everybody has Google. If you have Google Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Ever, Spark is now on your phone. Spark can manage your emails. It can manage your calendar. Spark, whatever lives in your Google environment, Spark agent, and it is an agent, you give it permissions, you tell it what it can and cannot do. It's doing stuff for you guys. And that's, it's information is only valuable when it's acted on. The world's full of people that know a bunch of stuff and never do anything.
I mean, I get 400 or 500 emails a day, and I probably only get 12 to 13 of them are actually good, actionable emails. And I haven't quite gotten to this point, but I think I'm going to here this month, where I'm going to start creating that agent to go through and filter through to make sure I'm less likely to miss good emails. Because I guarantee, I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke with all my buddies, right? And the people who refer business to me. I say, call me. In fact, I don't even put an email address on my business card any longer, because I just want you to call me or text me, because I'm not likely to lose that.
Right.
But if you send me an email, there's a 50% chance that I'm gonna, that my executive secretary at the Rotary Club, she'll send me an email, but for 3 years now, she'll text me when she sends me an email that's important, so that I actually respond to it, and I can deal with the banking or the taxes or whatever it is we're supposed to go do, so I don't miss it.
So,
and that's sad.
This is a great use case. Right now, today, your agent can manage your email box. And if you don't want it to delete anything, it won't delete anything, but it will give you a report in the morning. These are the 5 emails that you should look at. It'll also, I get tons of newsletters from LinkedIn, and some of them I'm interested in, some of them I'm not, because I'm so busy. My friends, I'm sorry, I just delete them all. My agent can go through and go, hey, William, this is when you should open. William, this is when you should read. Now, as you come to trust your agent more, I'm a person that believes in a zero inbox. So my agent can actually go, if it's not important, delete it, make it go away. I don't want it there. So you wake up in the morning, your top emails that need to be dealt with are sent to you, and everything else that's garbage is deleted. And if there's a question, it'll flag, hey, you might want to look at this, high priority, low priority. The cognitive space that's saving me. And to Mike's point, you know what? Every once in a while, I get someone who is interested in hiring me or hiring us, and I miss it because I'm like Mike. I don't have time I don't use email as a communication method.
Well, I spend a lot of time in the truck driving from a customer to a customer, or meeting to a meeting, or whatever, and we do stuff all over the Western United States. So I can spend hours at a time inside, on a truck, just driving. So using it as a note taker as well. Right, I can go through and I can mention, say, hey, William called. He says I need to do these 3 things. Let's make certain you put it into my daily agenda over the next couple of days. Let's go through and knock these things out so I don't forget them. And you can use it in a way that's really simple and practical to make certain that you're more efficient and you're less likely to miss important items. And if you just think that's a small example, but now you start to compound that and build it. How much more productive can you? How much more, if you're running a construction company, how much more productive could your project managers be, or maybe your contract administrators be? by going through and making certain that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's and bringing in every bit of cash we should be bringing in and make certain our contracts are tight, right? Think about if you're a plumber or if you're doing real estate and you're having contract renewals right now for your leases, right? Are you getting max value? Maybe you don't want to do max value of your tenant because you want to have retention. You can have that conversation with AI to say, hey, this is where we are. I think market rent is here. How much do you think we can move up in a strategic way so that when we do the lease renewal, we're increasing the enterprise value of that property without driving away our best customers? And think and start using it as an assistant that way to drive real results into your organization.
So as we kind of wrap up this conversation around AI and agents and what does it mean? Imagine a pyramid of value and impact. Okay, the bottom of the pyramid is all the stuff we don't love to do. I'm folding laundry. I'm clearing my email box. I'm checking I'm looking up these. I'm trying to organize my thoughts. Right, I've got things in notes and I've got things in my email. So imagine when that gets delegated. Well, all of a sudden you get to move up the pyramid of impact and value. And at the very top, you're doing the things you were born to do. You're loving your family, you're serving people, you're creating ideas and experiences. And so our vision is, as we move into this AI native world, I want to offload all of the stuff that doesn't matter. And in the years that I have, I want to spend them loving people well, creating things that are beautiful and serving the world. And anything that's drudgery, that cubicle stuff that I don't love and doesn't excite me and doesn't really serve the world, I want to offload it. And you can start doing that today. And I hope in our show, the goal is with every episode, take one thing.
Right.
What's one idea that's like, oh, that's kind of cool, and do that. And then in the next episode, look for that one thing. We promise we're going to keep giving you good stuff. And you just got to start deploying it.
It's it. And you don't have to have it change your life today. Start with that one thing. Hey, if you're a hobbyist in your garage, take a picture of your toolbox or your tabletop. How do I organize this? Start there, right? See what it can do, because you do that and all of a sudden you might come back to your office and go, oh, you know what? Our CNC shop might need a little organization. I think maybe we could use this. You give it to your shop foreman and go, what do you think? Right? And all of a sudden things start building on each other.
I want to wrap with this story. So my dad worked for Skunk Works. He was their tooling engineer. And in our garage, my dad had every tool you could imagine, lathes and blah, blah, blah. And he had on the wall, it kind of makes me want to cry, like there was a stencil behind the wrench. There was a stencil behind, so
my grandfather had the same thing.
If the tool was ever off the wall, you knew where it went to go back. So right. Guys, thank you for being a part of the posse. Thank you for being on the show. Schmitty, it is great to be in person, sharing a cocktail and some stories.
Did I hear we're going to have lobster roll later on?
We got lobster rolls coming.
Sorry, guys. Wish you could be here.
We'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody. Salute. I was raised in the rust, built tough as nails, where the wind cut sharp.